So when it comes to starting off with a group of folks who don't have a clue on what D&D is, how to play D&D, where to start with D&D, the main objective is to give them the TLDR, as well as to find out what kind of games they enjoy, period. I trust you are definitely not a werewolf. Appreciate that. Now, I'm gonna start talking to the camera. I gotta do this for YouTube videos and shit like that. We might make this into a YouTube video. I'm not 100% on that yet. But when getting a massive group of people that go, oh my goodness, I want to play D&D. I've always seen it on TV and, you know, Critical Role, or we love Vox Machina, whatever the hell they come up with. The expectation for one player is going to be completely different than another player, which is going to be completely different than what you plan on having them play in the game. Get what I'm saying? Your idea of a wonderful time in D&D might be very roleplay based. Their idea might be whatever they've seen on Vox Machina, or, you know, they love He-Man growing up. Maybe that's what they want. And your job as the DM, very similar to an educator, is to find out what is the best way to make sure everyone at the table is going to have a wonderful time. And I hate to say it, but it's going to take a lot of the C word. That's right, communication. And when it comes to communication in these games, it's usually one of the parts of tabletop RPGs that, when it's done correctly, everything goes off without a hitch. And even when things mess up, you have enough of a cushion, enough of insurance backed up in your game plan. I love that you came in when I said that. And you have enough insurance, you have enough backup information from communicating with your players, that even if there is a bump in the road, you automatically and already know that you're with a group of players that will understand either where you're coming from, and or they know that you have the information that you need to come back from it in a respectful way. Here's the point. You know about session 0. My assumption is that you will start the game off with a session 0. I got some news for you. Sometimes there's things before even session 0 that you need to get done for your players. One of my favorite things to do is to make a little Google Doc of a survey. And in that Google Doc, you ask them all the questions on what their favorite stories were growing up, or what their favorite books are. Okay? You want to ask them what kind of games do they enjoy playing. Okay, you want to ask them what kind of movies do they enjoy, who's their favorite superhero, who's the, you know, sometimes if you're feeling comfortable enough, what are their political views. I hope that, you know, sometimes you that one's a little dicey. Actually, no, let me just be real with you. If they have shady political views, don't fuck with them. There you go. I said it on live on the internet. I'm sorry if that hurt anybody's feelings. Political views are life views. If they've got fucked up ones, don't deal with them. Session -1, exactly. And session -1 is more of a 1v1 stuff with your players. And you're just trying to get the information on each of those people's dynamics of how they enjoy games. Case in point, T-Dog, am I allowed to use you as an example since you're here? Before I just start spitting. Actually, I won't use you. Yes, I can. Okay, I know T-Dog enjoys gothic horror. I know that T-Dog will tell me specifics of what kind of comics they like, romance. They want to make sure that there's some sort of tryst going on with her character and possibly some delicious NPC, and they will give me all that information. Love interest is very important. Whereas when I'm playing with some of my homies that are in the Navy, they want to be an anime protagonist. You know, they'll tell me. I remember my when I was in the when I was in A school, I played with a group of sailors, and they were like straight up. One of my players was like, "Hey, I want to be Black Star from Soul Leader." I was like, "What?" He was like, "I want to be Black Star from Soul Leader. You've read Soul Leader, hasn't you?" And I was like, "Of course I've read Soul Leader. I'm a bigger otaku than you are." And he was like, "All right, well I want to do that in this game." Easiest thing I've ever written for a D&D game ever, you know? But the thing is, even though I have what he wants, I got to also make sure if him and T-Dog are at the same table, I got to make sure that right as he's going through his anime arc, training arc, I also have that love interest ready for T-Dog when their section comes up. And being able to juggle all that to keep everyone immersed in the story. The best thing about being a DM is it's actually one of the easiest jobs in the game, because all you're doing is telling the story that your players want to tell. That's it. All the all the work you put into it is literally asking your friends, "Hey, what do you want to do that'll be fucking cool for you in the game?" And then they'll tell you. And then you balance it out to make sure that everyone feels like a superhero at the end of the day in the game, and making sure he doesn't kill her. Yeah, he's that'll probably be something that definitely won't happen, hopefully, unless they die saving me. How romantic. Ooh, yes. I can see how that works. Like, oh, they're a villain, but at the last second they choose to do the right thing for their love for T-Dog. Melts. Just melts instantly. Uh but because I communicated with T-Dog about what they want in the game, T-Dog's gonna be like, well, I want to keep playing because I gotta see what else is gonna happen in my story. Because let's be honest, PCs are selfish, as they should be. The story is about them. The meme where they say, is this story about us? Yes, it is. It is in fact about you. And me as a GM understands that I want to tell a story as well, but the main idea, at least this is how I look at GMing, is I want to tell an awesome story about my friends and the journey they want to take together. So it's their chance to be as selfish as they want to be. I remember the one piece of advice you gave once is that everyone is the main character. Correct. Yeah. Everyone at your table is the main character. Everyone has, and the reason for that mainly is because this story doesn't happen without them. And if it does happen without them, why would they be immersed in the story? Why would they come to the table every week if the story wasn't about them? I mean, if we watch a TV show, we go into a TV show understanding that the story is not about us. But when I come to a table and I'm a player character at the table, I'm investing in that story because I'm a part of it. Or at least that's what's been told to me from the jump. Correct me if I'm wrong, for anyone who feels differently. But usually when you ask players to join you at a table to tell a story, you are establishing with them, hey, this story is about your character and their journey through our awesome adventure world. And I'm just going to build the world around your character's story. The biggest lie I love to tell my players is that I'm everything and God in the story. When in actuality, my story doesn't run without your characters. The Weird was written by T-Dog, Stormbeard, Helvetic Cat, and JT Cunning. I assisted in it, I filled in the gaps, but all of their backgrounds had something pivotal to do with the story of the Weird. I could not have written that story without them. I had an idea of a story, but I was not capable of completing the story without the ideas that they threw at me with their characters. Judith's John Constantine ass story. I literally ripped shit straight out of John Constantine. T-Dog knows that. We were talking about the exact scenes that I stole from it. But it was cool as shit. It was cool as hell. The whole time loop thing from the Weird, that is the only thing I'll take credit for. That was the only thing that like was my idea. Everything else was made because of my awesome friends. Did that happen in a room with all of them together, or did you do it 1v1 and stitch it together? 1v1. Bits and pieces. I brought up the factions. I brought up the faction ideas I had. There was going to be a church, because I'm playing with T-Dog. There's going to be some sort of monster hunting community, because somebody wants to profit off monsters. And there's going to be some sort of government force, because the government isn't going to just let monsters hang out and be everywhere without their say-so. And that's all I had, pretty much. As well as I wanted a starting point, Y2K, because it was going to be early 2000s time. But the characters, their backstories, the villains, most of the villains came from their backstories. The only villain that didn't come from their backstories was Gemini. And honestly, Gemini only showed up because I wanted the church to be an issue, because T-Dog said that they wanted Judith to have an issue with the church that they were a part of. But I can't even take credit for that. Communication is key. And because I had those conversations with my players, not just at the beginning, but all throughout the game, we were able to create a awesome story that I got confirmation today, because I was going to have this session in the stream. I wanted to make sure that I got confirmation from my friends before I just started talking out my ass. But we got confirmation. I got confirmation today that they all enjoyed it, even the time loop stuff. Because to be completely honest, Rondo, the Weird had 3 TPKs. We had technically three TPKs in our game, but because I was communicating well with my players about what they were getting into, 3 TPKs didn't make them say, man, this game sucks. I always feel like I'm losing. How do you work that with people who are not experienced and don't know what they want? Perfect. That goes back to the survey I was talking about previously. Because though they say they don't know what they want, they do know what they like. People know what entertains them and what they like to be entertained doing. So that's where that survey comes in. I have a survey I made for the Weird group. I will need to find it and I'll post it. I also used it for my Descent into Avernus game. I'll find it and I'll put it in the Discord. It's just simple. It's a simple survey of asking, like, what kind of books do you like to read? What stories do you enjoy? If you were the main character in a story, what kind of genre do you think you would be in? What kind of games do you like to play? Do you enjoy puzzles? Hell yeah, I love puzzles. Actually, I'm more of a looter shooter type of gamer. You know, what type of gamer are you? We're all gamers. So which type of gaming do you enjoy? Oh, when I play my role-playing games, I like to smooch as many people as possible. What about you? Oh, me? I like to min-max. I want my character to be strong AF at all times. I love doing all the side missions before I do the main quest, so I hit the BBG across the face and finish the boss fight in 2 seconds. You want to ask all those questions of your players so you know what to do in your game in order to keep them immersed. They're giving you the information that you need to keep them immersed in the game. And you know what they're going to say to that? Wow, I really like this game. Motherfucker, I know you're going to like the game, because it's the game you told me you enjoy the most. Honestly, it's just being a good listener. It's being a good listener, gathering resources from the players on what they like, and being courteous enough to apply that to the game. Most game nightmares, most GM blunders come from forgetting about the players and what they like and what they dislike. And that's why lines and veils are so important. That's another thing you need to have that probably during session 0, making sure you know what players do not like. Because that's where a lot of blunders come from. It's not respecting your players in their dislikes as much as what they like. Is the quickest way to, as the kids say, give the ick to your players. For good reason. Because if you have a session 0 and you have established what your players dislike, and yet you still go past that line, it's going to happen sometimes because you get immersed in the role and certain things happen. But if you don't have tools set up to pause and stop and say, hey man, I'm not here for that, then you're failing your players. Yeah, with this new game, I'm going to have to do a lines and veils type survey 100% for every game. I would say you should always do a lines and veils, even if you know the people extremely well, because things change. Life sucks sometimes, and your friends are going to go through things that at first they thought wouldn't faze them, and now faze them all the time. And you need to be a good friend in yourself and being prepared to ask the questions of what is something that you are not going to enjoy, so that I make sure that it is not brought up in this game. I hate when I hear stories of motherfuckers who use the line. This is like the grossest thing I've ever heard, but use the lines and veils as tools to like make their players like more terrified of the game that they're playing or some shit like that. It's disgusting. Don't ever do that. I'm getting pissed off just thinking about it. But I digress. The main two things I can tell you is talk to your players. I feel like I say that every time I do one of these world building things, but talking to your players, asking them what kind of games they like. They don't know anything about D&D. Is what you're establishing with me, is that they don't know anything about D&D. But the cool thing is you can still make a game that's still D&D, but also shares topics and parts of it to what they do like. And in doing so, it's going to be an easier way to have them more immersed within your game. Yeah, that is a great way to make sure no one ever wants to play D&D again. Exactly. And people do it. It's weird. I think it's like a power thing or something. It's gross. Disgusting. It's like God complex bullshit or whatever. I don't know. I'm ranting. But I think you will be extremely successful with just those tools, just off. And that's just getting to session 0. Now going into like trying to explain the game to them and get them to play and make their own characters, that's going to be more of a, I would look up resources online, share those with them. I know one of my favorite guys to send resources to folks who are like really not serious, but they're like interested in playing. Pointy Hat. I think Pointy Hat's content explaining when they explain creating a character and things like that, I think they do a wonderful job with it. Every time I send one of their videos to a friend, they feel extremely entertained by the content. Just going on YouTube and finding resources that you think they would enjoy watching to get a better understanding of D&D, because D&D is complicated to somebody who's never played before. I'm coming up on, next year will be my 10th year playing tabletop RPGs. You know, I've only been doing it for 9 years. Is there anything specific you can think of? Because the main two things I want you to do is try and gather information on what the players enjoy when they game, any type of games they like to do. If they're into murder mysteries, you know, one of them might be like, I don't game much, but I remember doing this murder mystery with my friends and we all dressed up and it was a lot of fun. That's massive information. If they're big into sports, then that tells you you might want to possibly have a sports thing. If they're big into card games, you might want to throw a little Queen's Blood bullshit in your game. I don't know. I'm exaggerating. At the end of the day, what you okay, you've done the survey, you've done the session 0. They understand how their player, I want to say their player sheet works. Anytime you're playing with people who have never played the game before, I hate to say it, but level 1 is the best level to have them start off on. And the reason I say that is because they have no idea what's going on, and putting them at level 3 might be a little bit of too much. So always have them start at level 1. If they've never rolled a dice before in their life, level 1. If they don't know, if they've only seen a D20 on Stranger Things, they start at level 1. And then just come in and say, all right, they got their sheets. I need to start cooking on the first part of the game. And honestly, my opinion on whether you should start either on your own homebrew stuff and Fandelver is how comfortable you feel on either or. I know the Fandelver start quests like the back of my hand, because that's usually where I start off most of my first time gamers. So I feel real comfortable doing that. And because of that, I've noticed the parts I really don't enjoy, and usually I see players don't enjoy. So I've changed them up. I've made them more interesting in my opinion. There's a village that's like overrun or overcovered by like a druid, like it's like the planet Faerun is taking the planet back in that area, so it's really overrun with plants. I changed that whole shit. I made like a plant zombie infested area, sort of similar to The Last of Us. And usually there's a dragon that like flies over, and it's supposed to just tell your players one day you'll be able to fight the dragon in Dungeons and Dragons. Got rid of that. They're fighting hordes of Last of Us zombies. And then maybe there's a Audrey 3 plant monster at the end of it controlling all these zombies. Maybe. You don't know. I've ran that one shot. Like I've ran that for folks who have made it past the whole level 1 training of going into the cave of goblins and kobolds and other monsters, because I don't like to discriminate with my monsters. Sometimes it's humans, because humans suck too. After they finish that first quest, then I'll be like, all right, now it's time to get action packed. Now it's time to fight something cool. Now it's time to feel like a fucking hero. And I'll usually throw that at them. Yeah, that is a part of why I was thinking of doing a small homebrew of them in backwoods villages who know nothing, just like them. Yeah, exactly. Don't have them like they're meeting the king of such and such, give them a whole backstory of the kingdom and how, you know, the world is and everything. No, start them off in a small town. Small town, they're a bunch of nobodies who need to make ends meet. Give them the millennial start special. give them that start. And then, you know, if one of them is courageous enough to give you a backstory and all that shit, throw that in there. The story is about them. Throw some of that in there. Because two things are going to happen, probably. Don't quote me, but usually this is what happens. One of the things is their eyes are going to light up because you added something that they wrote down into the game. Folks who have never played D&D before, when you add things that they thought of into the game, melts their hearts. They love that shit. My original idea was to show up with a bunch of pre-generated characters, but that does eliminate some of the fun. I would do this. Give them the sheets that are pre-generated characters, and then tell them to do what they want with them, with the characters themselves. Let them all look at the different characters, see what they like. And then if they continue to like the game, we can modify these later. You know? One of them might be like, I really like the Ranger class, but I didn't want to be a half-orc or something like that. Change it up. Be like, all right, we'll keep the stats how they are, but we're gonna switch up. What did you want to play? You wanted to play a Mushroom Man? Sure. And you find the Mushroom Man character sheet and put all the stats in for that later on. It's a game. It's a game. Find a way in the story to make it like, why did this half orc turn into a Mushroom Man? It's a game. Nothing is set in stone. You're here to have fun. Mushroom girl, mushroom dance. I always think of that when I say it's anything about mycelia. But yeah, make sure they enjoy themselves. Sorry, I hijacked the first half hour. You didn't hijack it. You didn't hijack it at all. You had a good question, and you're here, so we're communicating. And guess what? All those tips I gave you, I think everybody should have. I wouldn't have shared it with you if I didn't think everybody should have that information. It's good information. And we're going to use that information to go into these shitty ass Reddit stories that I found. Oh, they're bad. Some of them are bad. Some of them are good. This comes from RD&D Horror Stories, parking _tier _57. Only fighting. My first ever campaign I played was awful. The game was me, non-binary 18, my dad, male 51, and some of my dad's friends, including the DM, male 52. They're talking about the ages of everybody at the table. It was a simple Pathfinder game to teach me game mechanics since I was new, and I'd read the rule books and watched some videos of games to make sure I knew how it worked. This game was not that. I had previously said I really liked the RP aspect of the game and understood fighting was necessary, but it was not my favorite part. My dad, however, only likes the fighting aspect, and I feel he influenced the DM to try to get me interested in that aspect. The first red flag should have been that my character, a halfling cavalier, was the only one with a backstory. At all. Admittedly, it was meant to be short and educational, so I figured it was because the focus was teaching, as it was stated to be a short campaign for me specifically to learn multiple times by all party members, okay? Except our characters had no real introduction to each other and started together with no explanation as to why, and in the middle of an empty tundra with no town or village nearby. There was no in-character dialogue. My stat and feat choices were questioned for not being combat optimal and suggested to be changed repeatedly. And we had no in-game interactions besides fighting and looting randomly selected and spawned enemies. Any and all character interactions were solely optimized to get the more essential fighters back to combat shape in order to have better chances in the next fight every time we rested or made camp, with no other interactions such as staying up on watch or talking to each other. They didn't even introduce themselves the whole time. Within one 5-hour session, we had 13 combat encounters with no dialogue even between the enemies and our characters during said fight. Eventually, I gave up on enjoying the game, only rolling when told by the DM and not paying attention, focusing on downing pizza and iced tea until I could leave and go to bed, as I saw no point in trying to keep track of my turn if it was just going to be the same 3 attacks over and over again. I was repeatedly asked if I was enjoying the game and lied that I was due to not wanting to upset the others who seemed happy, especially since they were excited. Especially because they were excitedly talking about previous games in their school years, which I couldn't relate to. I really don't want to go back for another session, but I'm being texted and called about setting up the second session soon by both my dad and the DM. While I do still love the game, I feel another session or two like this will kill any enthusiasm I have for it, even when properly played, because I'll be stuck on the negative experience. It's upsetting because it is one of the only things me and my dad share an interest in, and we thought we had finally found something we could do together. Woof. Woof. And this sucks. This sucks heavy because it's one of those things that I was talking about earlier when you were asking me about tips on how to run a game. And obviously, this individual is going into a shared space. It's I should have never started that joke. Shit, it's that C word again. Communication. It's very important. And though this is communication, as well as you have a teenager basically hopping into a game with a bunch of veterans. I'm just picturing like a bunch of just older gentlemen with their cigars and their whiskey saying, "Hey there, welcome to Dungeons and Dragons." It's Pathfinder too. Pathfinder's crunchy as shit. So what they ended up doing was their father invited them to the game, which is amazing. I feel is awesome because them and their father both share this interest in tabletop RPGs. One is into more of the what is it called, combat and war games aspect of it. 13 sessions, 5 hours is a lot. 13 combat sessions in 5 hours is insane. This DM knows one thing, and it's combat. Respect the hustle. I gotta respect the hustle. 13 combat sessions in 5 hours is insane. It's wild. And the fact that they're just shooting through it, I feel like they have to be some sort of like actual computer. But they've been doing this for years, I assume. They explain in the story how when they were in school they played, so even if that's college, that's still like 2 decades worth of gaming of this game. But the problem is they wanted to play a more role play heavy game, whereas their father enjoys a more war games heavy game. It does make sense. If they are in their 50s, they start, yep, which makes sense. And like, they know their game, they know what they love, and they've built their friendship as well as the game to what they enjoy. Not everybody understands that, unfortunately, that sometimes if you want to bring somebody else new to the game, they're going to share what they enjoy about it. It's not going to be the same. So are you willing to change things up so that you can add more people to enjoy the fun that you enjoy? Or are you not going to do that and just expect, well, if we have them go through a few more 5-hour sessions and we add, instead of 13 combats, we'll do 20, they'll love it because we're gonna beat the love into them. Real old school parenting device. That's not gonna work here. I don't think that's gonna work here at all. And I hope that this individual will get a chance to communicate with their parent. Hey, this is what I was looking for specifically. And I remember telling you how specifically I enjoy the roleplay aspect more than the combat. I enjoy the combat, don't get me wrong. However, that's not what I'm here for. The flogging will continue until morale improves. That's literally 13 is insane. And it's just random monsters. When I first started playing D&D, I love combat. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. Throw whatever you wanted. I wanted to roll dice, do math, hit things hard because I built this character to fuck shit up. I love that shit. But I don't know how people just continue doing it because it does get boring. So when you're just randomly throwing monsters, when I really was like, oh, I love this game, was when I was like, why did you choose that monster specifically? And then my GM got excited because they got to explain why in this world this monster lives here because this happened. World building. And I was like, you can do that? They were like, yeah. These owlbears used to live in the caves until the dragon came and then took over the caves, and all these kobolds started poaching the owlbears. So now they live out in these forests. The problem with that is the folks who live in these forests are now getting attacked by owlbears. That's why you guys were called out here. That's cool to me. And that's probably cool to this individual. If their father's GM put more effort into, explaining where the monsters came from, that might be more interesting. That might have them want to come to the next session. But just nothing but combat is crazy work. Some people love it, and I'm not going to knock them for loving it. Love what you like what you love, as long as you ain't hurting nobody. Combat is a lot more fun before you have them all memorized, i.e. people knowing trolls need fire to die. And that's why you always gotta, and that's why I'm not against homebrewing, because you gotta keep it spicy. Gotta keep it spicy at the table. Nope, I just said that on the internet. But you do have to make sure your monsters are interesting. And it's like, well, my character would know that because they also read the monster manual. I mean, they've been training for years and know that this is about troll. Yeah, that's cool, I guess. You know what's cooler? Do an investigation check. Actually hunting the monster and then finding clues that establish that this monster probably doesn't like this thing. And me as the DM explaining that to you through dialogue and or information that you found out in the world. That's cool. That's world building. I show you, you're hunting the troll down, and then you get to a part where you see charred troll skin, but you know the troll's not dead. And it's like, charred. It's like, yeah, well, we saw the troll. It tried to attack us, but it hit that candle over there, and then it screamed and ran away. A candle did this? And it's like a big chunk of troll flesh or something that's burnt off. And you're like, a candle did this to the troll. And they're like, yeah, I don't know what scared it off. And you're like, either the troll really isn't into wax play, or it's scared of fire. I'm sorry. Oh boy. But like, I feel like that's more fun. It's some theater kid shit too, don't get me wrong. But as we established, at least with this story, and you've already established it, and I'm glad you're using the tools that I shared with you. Communication is important on both ends of this. Father to teenager. Are you enjoying the game? No, Dad, I am not enjoying it as much as you think I would. I told you I enjoy these parts of the game. Can we have more of these parts of the game implemented into the game? If not, would you be willing to help me find a table that has more of these things? Because they don't have to play at that table. There are plenty of tables that you either, it's not going to be fun for you, they're freaking weird, or, you just don't mesh. That happens all the time. I've been to those tables sometimes, and I've had to ask, like, hey, we're gonna go our separate ways because I'm just not feeling it here. There's nothing against you. It's just, this isn't the fun that I was expecting. I'm sorry. Tabletop RPGs are relationships too. Sometimes you gotta be like, hey, it ain't working out. That's keeping it. And you gotta be able to do that. It sucks sometimes, because sometimes you're like, sometimes it's friends that you really want to be able to game with, but you get more nightmarish stories from moments that weren't spoken. I have found that to be what happens usually, is you will, because you end up trying to stay at a table that you have no business continuing to play at, more bad things end up happening because you're forcing it. I experienced that with watching streams too, so it makes sense for sure. Yeah. It happens in the streaming space too. You can, and the worst thing about the streaming space is sometimes you can see it on their faces. You can see it on their faces where you're like, they are not having a good time. Don't get me wrong. There are some times where folks are acting very well and it looks like they're in panic mode and they're not. But 9 times out of 10, when they're just doing the roll and dice shit and you see stank face on their face, that's always like secondhand embarrassment type shit. Doesn't happen all the time. It does happen. So you just want to make sure you don't do it at your tables. You know how you don't do that? By communicating with your players and or GM. So that's what I think. I think they should just make sure they're communicating what they want, and then the dad can be awesome and let their child at least have an experience where, because maybe the dad doesn't feel comfortable with that game style. He doesn't feel comfortable trying to become Aragon real quick for their child, and that's fair. But then still be able to bring those resources, or help them find those resources, help them find those friends. I think that's what I think that's part of parenting. I don't know. Never been a parent. Just a teacher and an uncle. A lot easier, a lot less stressful. My meaning is more that I have tried to watch games with people I wanted to watch their streams, and the game was just not for me. Yes, that happens too. You're like, oh man, I love this actor, or I love this, what are they called? Social media person? Content creator. I love this content creator. I want to see them play a game I really enjoy. And it's like saying, man, I really love steak and I really love apple pie. If I put them together, that's probably gonna make a good meal. And then you bite into a steak with an apple pie on it and you're just like, this was bad. This was a bad call. That happens sometimes, but it doesn't mean you can't enjoy them separately still. But yeah, I only got to one. I think I only got to one story. Should I read more? Should I get another one in? This one has no updates. Actually, do they? I'll read some of the comments. Sounds like your pop is an old head war gamer. Just isn't your style of game. Next time, don't lie about enjoying it. Tell your dad that while you enjoy it, his friends and his play style isn't quite your style. Also, salute to the DM for 13 encounters in 5 hours. I can barely get through an encounter for 3 hours of a session with my players. Dude, for real. The DM is absolutely amazing at running encounters and has the various combat and species rules memorized to the point he can just recite it, including page number. Just unfortunately conforms to anything he's requested to without any fight. So when their dad was like, hey, my child would like to I want to get them into combat, they were like, say less, I got you, without hearing their side of the story. What somebody said, yes, the battle gamer / theater kid divide. That's awesome. I do hope that they can still, enjoy their time with their dad outside of this aspect of gaming. I want to upvote. I'm learning how to Reddit as we speak. I'm gonna upvote Papa Pigeon. Papa Pigeon's the one I've read. All right, let's find another one. And by find, I mean I already found these earlier. Here's one. This is from,
I've read it. I've read this one earlier just to make sure I didn't say anything stupid on the stream. This is what I call backpedal 101. This is another one from D&D Horror Stories. Alistar Soren. It was all an illusion. This took place a few years ago, and I don't know if the DM meant for that session to go the way it did, but it basically ended the campaign on the spot. Yikes. Important characters: DM, fighter, me, and rogue. Our party received a tip that an important town had been overrun by undead. Of course, we went in to investigate and saw the tip was seemingly true. We enter the town and start trying to sneak our way past large numbers of undead. Only our rogue rolled decent, so of course we were spotted and initiative was rolled. The very first group of undead we fight has 3 Bodocs and a couple of gas, and a few zombies for good measure. Not great for us, but winnable if we played smart and used our surroundings to our advantage. The rogue and I immediately duck into a nearby hut, 15 by 15 on the inside. I specify before stepping into the hut that I want to look inside to check if anything was in there. DM says I don't see anything. The interior is dark and my character has dark vision. This will become important in a second. I love when people write stuff like that in these. Don't worry, it's gonna come in the clutch. Alright. My fighter was melee focused, but my character discerned the undead had some dangerous abilities if they got close. So he wasn't about to let himself get surrounded and destroyed by those gas and Bodocs. The party is struggling to put down these bulky undead, and we finally start making some headway when out of nowhere the DM says there is now a Night Walker in the hut with me and the rogue. It's a Night Walker. Oh my days! Let me show this off. That is a Night Walker. And that is the perspective of the player. Now I understand what they meant by it not being... He said 15 by 15? Let me check that again. 15 by 15 hut inside. That thing is definitely taller than 15 by 15. I understand. Very easy to see as well. Yikes. I'm pretty sure they noticed that. I agree. So a Night Walker? You mean a CR20 creature that would destroy your soul when it kills you? Hold up. Let me read some. What the fuck? Oh, its AC is 14, but it has 297 health. Speed 40, fly speed 40, resistant to acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. Immunity to necrotic, poison, exhaustion, frighten, grapple, paralyze, petrified, poison, prone, restrain. Not looking good. Dark vision to 120 feet and passive perception of 9. So they probably woke him up by accident. Annihilating Aura. Any creature that starts its turn within 30 feet of the Night Walker must succeed a DC 21 Constitution saving throw or take 14 and or 4d6 necrotic damage, and grant the Night Walker advantage on attack rolls against it until the start of the creature's next turn. Undead are immune to this aura. What the frick is this monster? I want to use it. But that failed to take into account that the creature wouldn't be able to physically fit in the hut. Facts. Suffice to say, me and the rogue both die and have our souls destroyed, and the DM ends the session. Oh no. I asked the DM what exactly we were supposed to do to avoid the death there. His response: oh, it was all an illusion. There's, insert random item, in the center of the city generated an illusion over the whole place. I love how they literally put in parentheses, insert random item, meaning they stopped listening to whatever their DM was saying after they said it was an illusion. They didn't give a shit what they were saying after this. This illusion was not hinted at in or out of character in any way. Our characters had no way to know this was an illusion. This left me and the rogue more than a bit disgruntled, and I'd be lying if I said we didn't have a hand in the campaign ending. But yeah, rant over. They're still mad about this. Oh. Well, they kind of explained the at the end of this how this was a bunch of BS. This illusion was not hinted at in or out of character in any way. So that's where my idea of backpedaling comes from. Because if you're gonna hit your players with a CR20 monster, I feel as though if you don't want to lose the room, that is something that you should establish within the game much sooner. That people are seeing things throughout the town, or you see a flash of something that's not there previously, or they see another creature, they try to fight it, the ranger shoots an arrow and it goes straight clear through it. Like this is bad GMing. There was no good communication. That's very bad game design, absolutely. And you want to make sure you don't do that. Like I said, they're the main characters. Are you going to kick your main characters' asses? Absolutely. You are allowed to do that. You are allowed to beat the shit out of your players, as long as you make sure the players know that's what they're getting into. As long as you warn them in your special way, you establish with your players, hey, this guy's tough and he may kick your ass. And there are different ways to establish that with them. Hey guys, these folks want to give you 5,000 gold to complete this mission. 5,000 gold. But GM, the highest gold amount we've made in this game is 100. Now you're throwing 5,000 gold at us? Oh, it says on this quest page we might die. Oh. Well, we've never had anything like that before. These are ways you can share with your players, like this is about to get sticky. I read a book about game design, and it was written by one of the guys who made Half-Life. He talked about there should always be a warning before a deadly situation. Don't just have them walk into a room full of gas that kills them. Have a hazard sign on the door so that there's some foreshadowing. I had a friend the other day, we were playing a game, and they're like, uh-oh. Like, what? The game's giving us a whole bunch of health packs and ammo. We must be coming up to like a boss fight or something like that. And I shit you not, around the next corner, just around the river bend, we got monsters out the wazoo trying to beat the shit out of us. We survived it though. But yeah, that's good game design. The one I explained is a lot less clear than the one that you explained. But yeah, have things that say caution, poison. When I played Final Fantasy Remake, before you fight a monster that has a shit ton of like poison effects on it, they give you so many antidotes. Like they give you at least 5 antidotes, and you're wondering, I've never gotten more than 2 in a whole chapter, and now I'm in one section of the game and they're giving me 5. I'm probably going to deal with something with poison. Something's going to try to poison me because they just gave me more antidotes than I've had in this entire game. Because they want you to stay immersed. They want you to play the game. They want you to continue to play the game. So they're going to prepare you for a threatening area. Are they going to make it difficult? Yes, because another way to keep people immersed is to keep things challenging sometimes. And challenges can be in a whole bunch of different ways. It could be a challenging conversation and dialogue. It could be a challenging combat. It's what most of us deal with when we're gaming. It can be a Those are kind of the two main ones I can think of. There are a multitude of ways to make things challenging for your gamer to keep them immersed. But this isn't one of them. Just randomly throwing a CR 20 creature at only 2 of the players in the party in a small hut. Hello Frank. They sent I had to look up what a Nightwalker was in D&D, and this GM kind of like just threw it randomly at some players without any warning. 2 of the players died, and when they die, they can't get their souls back due to the rules of a Nightwalker without the wish spell. So they got kind of disgruntled about it. They did not like it, as they shouldn't, because it was not warned at them forever. And then to end it all, the GM said it was an illusion. That's why they didn't see it coming. So basically, I'm looking at these comments that somebody said, but did you die? No, really. Were your characters dead, or was the illusion making them somehow think that they died? That's the first thing I thought. Like, you lose an unwinnable fight to the enemy and you only think it's real. Realize that you actually didn't die. Then investigate why there are illusions, who's trying to keep people away from the town, etc. OP says, all the damage we perceived as coming from the undead, necrotic, bludgeoning, or whatever, was translated into the same amount of psychic damage. So yeah, we're dead. No healers on standby. That's bad. That's rough. Yeah, that's bad game design and bad communication from the GM on what the players needed to get done. Like, entirely. This is just, no wonder it's a D&D horror story. That sucks. But yes, as the GM, if something fell through that badly, I would what would I wouldn't be in this scenario to begin with, but let's say I'm picking up from where somebody set this up for the players. What would I do? I would make it a quest to wake these jokers up. They're not really dead. We rolling a JK on that shit. They're not dead, but they are in a comatose like situation. Yeah, we're gonna fix the save. We're gonna fix the save file, Frank. I love this. I love this idea. So we wanna those 2 characters, those 2 players are gonna be on their own little mini adventure in their minds, while the other party is gonna figure out where these illusions are coming from. And what I'd do is because I don't want to technically split the party up completely. And I'm kind of stealing this from Frank, but so I'm glad you're here. I'd have the 2 that are like stuck in this comatose state. Their souls are somehow moving throughout this town and hinting at which direction the illusions are coming from. So basically, instead of their souls just being taken forever, their souls are trapped in this town. And they're going to use their soul bodies to help their main party get them to the machine that has taken their souls. Craig putting on his substitute teach hat. I was a substitute teacher too. I did a year of substitute teaching. It was great. I woke up late. I just came in when they asked me to. It was great. But yeah, 100%. And then we do an epic boss fight where the main party's fighting with 2 of their heavy hitters gone. But their heavy hitters are gonna be doing their own scenario of the boss fight in the same room, but like highlighting certain areas. Because in my combats, I always want to make sure that you don't just hit the boss. There's something in the room that you can also do to change things up and to give your players an advantage when they're fighting whatever they're fighting. So that's what I would do in this scenario. And then I'd also apologize. I'd also throw an apology in there, because this is insane. That's wild. Let's read a good story. I got a good one here. This comes from Warren Mockles. where somebody said, I want to hear some good D&D stories. And they say, I'll tell you about the best encounter I ever had. I was the DM for this session, and a very new one. Oh, Rondo. I had given the party of level 3 adventurers a genie and a lamp. One of the players, my wife, didn't trust the genie, mostly because she doesn't trust me. So she wouldn't let anyone make any wishes. The party had previously met a grumpy hermit who collects and hoards magic artifacts, even if they're cursed, so they decided to give the lamp to him. He took the lamp from them and rubbed it, summoning the genie. The genie offered the hermit the customary 3 wishes, and the hermit said, I wish for you to face me in mortal combat. As the genie grew to gigantic proportions, flames in his eyes, the hermit grew to match, revealing his true form as a gold dragon. The party was way too low level to fight, so they had to escape and try not to get killed in the collateral of the fight. Oh, so it turned into like an escape. That's fucking goofy. That one was fun, and it didn't harm the players at all. I also would like to see how the players whether the players enjoyed that one. It was kind of like hey, look what I did, which is fine. It's Reddit. It's actually a cool idea. In order for the boss to die, you have to attack him from the phase plane at the same time as he's being attacked in the material plane. Correct. That's exactly what I was thinking. Because you still want to make sure it's their story, but now the rest of the party get to tell this awesome epic tale of how they saved their other 2 companions, and then the companions have the story of how they helped the investigation that everyone didn't know about until they were dead. That seems cool as shit. All right, let's read another one. Wah Cannon. Not a lot of specifics here, but I have a big table, 8 players, you are insane, of close friends that are all mostly new to the game. They have exceeded my expectations in a lot of ways, but especially in RP. They jumped right into it from the get-go, and we have been having a blast. Yes, things are slow sometimes due to the amount of players, but nobody cares. One of my favorite things is the barbarian in the group pretends to be the typical smash 'em, I don't give a fuck kind of barb, and he does it well. But any opportunity has had away from the party, he's done secret good things, like leaving gold behind for a man that has been beaten and captured, or sneaking off to repair the local farmer lady's pig pen. It's just been a blast, and they all surprise me every single game, even though we're only 6 sessions in. That's awesome. I love it when I get my new players just understand how to D&D. Because they understand how to just play a good guy and or a bad guy. If you have a group of players playing bad guys, maybe that. Time Space Geek. By the way, these are 4 years old. Time Space Geek. I'm always game for some happy D&D talk. This weekend, my Eberron game, DM'd by my friend, is reuniting for the first time in a couple of months. And I'm very excited because it's one of the best campaigns I've ever played in. I'm playing a Chrono Wizard from the Wild Mount book, and I'm having so much fun with him. As soon as I said to my DM that I wanted to play a Time Wizard, his whole idea for the campaign clicked in place for him, and he just took the idea and ran with it. Told y'all, I don't write stories. I help my players write cool ass stories they want to tell. I am the executive producer of the stories that I play. Is that the right term? Executive producer? Is it like a secretary or some shit like that? I assist in my gamers gaming hard when I'm in the GM chair. And I have yet to have any complaints, at least to my face, about how we game. Now we've experienced a whole new take on the Draconic Prophecy, where we've seen glimpses of parallel realities, possible futures, where what happened to Ciri spread across the entire world, and Kyber is released from his eternal prison. And we're on course to try and save the world from this fate. And so far, my wizard is the only character, and I the only player, to figure out what the DM is hinting at and how we're going to need to do that, and how much sacrifice it's going to involve. Oh, talking about time magic. Makes sense. So now my time wizard is secretly scheming to find a better solution without alerting his friends on how bad it's going to be. Okay. Okay. I was about to go on a rant, but ignore me. I'll explain it later. So now my time wizard is secretly scheming to find a better solution without alerting his friends to how bad it's going to be, and is also en route to confrontation with his long estranged family, while it's also trying to hide just exactly who his family is. And that's just my character. The party also has an orcish paladin who is in the prophecy, by name as someone tied to the fate. We've got a Kalishtar with PTSD and unfinished business from the war, another former soldier who died and then was brought back by something he doesn't totally understand, a monk with a hero complex and a real bad temper, and an old lady who spent decades as a cat because she pissed off an archfey and now wants to find whatever happened to the family she left behind, and an artificer who is leaving with a dual trauma of horrors of her creations and the fact that her home was wiped off the face of the map, and a furbog with amnesia. It is awesome, and I'm so fucking psyched. You know what was I was gonna be like, okay, this is just you ranting about your character, and that's okay to do sometimes. That's fun. Also, it's Reddit, so I can't complain that much about it. But then they immediately said, and that's just my character. And what I'm learning from just reading this is that the DM made sure that all their player stuff got in the game, and that it was interesting for not just the players themselves to get that little hug from their DM saying, hey, I wanted to make sure that you feel heard in this game, but they made sure that everyone at the table was like, hey, you see this player right here? We're going to learn about their character. It's going to be dope as fuck, and you're going to enjoy it, because they wanted to share that with everyone else. And that is what you get from a good storyteller. So, plural, because they're all telling the story together. They're all immersed. They all want to keep playing because we're learning so much about all these characters. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 GM, 10 out of 10 players.